Is making decisions an important quality of a leader? Can you give me a couple of minutes to think that over? Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, we inspire. And we are in a series based upon the book Leadership Secrets of Attilla the Hun, written by Wess Roberts, PhD. That is a milestone book in the genre of Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a great leadership Bible. It's entertaining and it gives you some really good points. And what we've been doing is going over some of the key points by the author and showing how they relate to reality. And last time we got together, we were talking about decision making. It was too big a subject to put it all in one video. So here's decision making part 2. Perhaps the most critical element of decision making is timing. Prompt determination after appropriate deliberation is a worthy principle of decisiveness. Now, you know who kind of expressed that in a really great way? It's Coach John Wooden. John Wooden, former coach of UCLA, probably the most successful college coach of all times. They won 8 out of 10 national championships, some ridiculous number like that. Every year, UCLA, they're there. They're drawing good players. But other colleges draw good players too. How come his team won all the time? All right. What he had certain principles that he taught and that the players followed that helped him to achieve excellence. He wasn't so focused on beating the other team as he was on playing as well as we could possibly play. Towards that end, he had a mantra, which was, be quick, but don't hurry. What does that mean? That means see the field, see the opportunity, and then when the timing is right, strike, go for it, explode to the basket. You follow what I'm saying? Same thing is true. You want to pontificate on certain issues, certain challenges that you have, and then once you make the decision, stop procrastinating, get to a starting line, and start. And then you know what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You're going to run into a roadblock or a detour, and then you know what you got to do? The same thing all over again. Get to a new starting line. So be quick once you've made the decision, but don't hurry. Contemplate, pontificate, make a good decision. In selecting an alternative, wise chieftains look for the choice in which the benefits outweigh the risks and costs of the decision. Noble chieftains make decisions in favor of the common good. You've got to remember, leaders, that you are there to serve your constituency. That's why you're there, to serve. Servant leadership. Make your decisions that are going to favor the common good. Now, sometimes, making decisions that are for the common good are not popular with the 95% crowd. They're not popular with the masses of people. But it's for their own benefit. It's for their own benefit. As an example, wearing masks, getting vaccinated, as an example. All right. It's not popular in a lot of places, but decisions have to be made. You follow what I'm saying? These types of decisions have to, I'm taking a big, country, but same scenario happens in companies, big and small. Make decisions that are going to serve the common good, even if the commoners of the common good can't see the benefits of that decision. You know the benefits, you've had the experience, make the decision favoring the common good. Chieftains are cautioned against rushing to conclusions when there is time and opportunity to improve upon the basic decision. This pandemic has had some positive things from it, okay? There's certainly a lot of negative things from it, okay? The deaths for one thing. But it's had some positive things. And you know what? When you take a look at leadership, you get a positive in seeing what not to do as well as seeing what to do. So you want to take those things and you want to put them in here in your memory bank so that you won't make the same mistakes. Do you want to stand in front of, I don't know, 350 million people and say, hey, I want everything to be normal by the time Easter comes? I want everybody, do you remember last year our leader-in-chief was saying, hey, my dream, my ambition is to have everybody in church by Easter. And this is like he had no idea what the heck he's talking about. Why are you saying that? Be careful what you say, because, don't rush to making conclusions when you don't know jack about the problem. Okay? Very simple. Wise chieftains often extract from obscure places the critical elements for making the right decision. The key is learning to find the obscure places and to recognize the critical elements. Okay, before we had this pandemic, was anybody, all that interested in what do we do during a pandemic? Okay, there was, a real minute percentage, the scientists, but with the rank and file, were they even thinking about it? Could they envision it happening? I couldn't. Who knew that like one day, here we are, I had tickets to take Eli to the Bulls game, and boom, the season gets canceled. You know how psyched I was to take Eli to the Bulls game? I was pumped. Stuff happens. I digress a bit, okay, but here's my point. You have to know where to find solutions. Now that's easier today with the way we have computers and so on and so forth. But, back in my day, if you wanted a solution, you go to the library, you look in the encyclopedia, but not everything's there. But the point is, sometimes you have to look in obscure places to find that solution, to find that specialist that knows the answer. As a leader, that's an important skill to have, is to know how to find things. Skepticism has value in that it delays premature decision making. When a chieftain can't make up his mind, it's worthwhile to restate the problem. One of the things that tends to happen with people is they can make emotional decisions. One of the things you want to do is you want to make sure that you're clear on your purpose. Being clear on your purpose is paramount in decision making. Sometimes when you restate why you're in business, what your objective is, what your burning desire is, what the goal of the whole team is, it makes the decision very simple. So make sure that if you're having a little difficulty, go back, restate the problem. Sometimes it helps a great deal. Sometimes it helps only a little, but the fact is, it will help when you have clarity of purpose. Chieftains should delegate only those decisions they want their subordinates to make. Conversely, chieftains who inappropriately make decisions for their subordinate leaders diminish the potential that exists for the young chieftains to learn and grow by exercising their judgments and being held accountable for their consequence of their decision. One of the long-term objectives that any leader has is organizational growth. And under the heading of organizational growth, once you assign something to one of your leaders and you give them the responsibility, once again, that's the difference between leadership and the rank and file. Leaders are responsible for the results. The rank and file are responsible for performing the function. Okay, it's like, Steve Kerr, coach of the Warriors, is responsible that the Warriors win. Steph Curry is responsible to put the ball in the hole. You follow what I'm saying? So one is the actual doing, the other is the person that puts everybody in position to win. Organizational growth means that you give people more responsibility because then they can move up, you will move up, give yourself more time, give you a chance to be more creative with your organization. Everybody wins. It's a win-win situation. Don't stick your nose. Let them make the mistake, unless it's going to be catastrophic. Let them make the mistake. Make it a learning experience. Initiative and decision-making is not sufficiently demonstrated by a chieftain when it occurs only in relation to easy assignments. It must be exhibited when facing difficult and high-risk tasks as well. A sure sign of a weak chieftain is hesitation to act out of fear that he might fail. Once again, worst decision is indecision. Easy decisions are easy. That's why they're called easy decisions. What separates the great leader from, putting it this way, the rank and file leader, is the ability to make important decisions where there's 2 or 3 or 4 different ways to go and making the right one. That is essential, making it work. So you can't not make a decision because you're afraid you're going to fail, because if you don't, the dike is going to keep leaking water and ultimately you're going to have a flood. And then the decision is made for you and it's probably not the one you wanted to make. Make a decision, make it work. Doubt and delay are frequently symptomatic of chieftains promoted beyond their capabilities. On the other hand, we often find ourselves in unfortunate situations in which too many chieftains make too many decisions with too little wisdom. I did a video on something called the Peter Principle. What the Peter Principle states is that people get promoted to the level of incompetence. Okay, they performed well, they kept getting promoted, and then they get to a position that's maybe a little bit above their head. Now their decision making is very, very difficult. The Peter Principle. How do you prevent that from happening? Is by giving people small responsibilities all along the way, increasing what's on their plate along the way, so that when they come to a difficult situation, they've already experienced something similar to what they have to produce in this challenge. That's the way one of the major company that I worked with worked it, and it's a great strategy. It's simple, it's great. Keep people more and more and more in small bites. Chieftains must avoid decisions that favor themselves at the expense of the Huns. Every decision is an opportunity to improve the conditions of the Huns, the tribe, and the nation. Once again, servant leadership. For my money, we saw things in our recent past where the leader was focusing on his benefits instead of the country's benefits. And to me, that was plain as day. To other people, apparently it wasn't. You know, that's what these glasses saw. Other people saw it differently. Always remember, you're there to serve, not to be served. All right? As you go up the line, you're going to get more benefits, more perks, more advantages. That comes with your position. But don't seek them out. Accept them when they're offered. Don't seek them out. Accept them when they're offered. There's a big difference. Always make sure that your decision making is focused on the good of the team. Chieftains grow to understand that the wisdom of a particular decision can change with time. Make every effort, therefore, to improve future decisions by learning from those you've already made. Hey, time changes things. Technology changes. Okay, I mean, we don't have video stores anymore because everybody can get things on Netflix or things like that. Right? So times change, technology changes. But here's the key point. If you don't know history, then when you go and do something, it's like it's happening for the first time. And you know what's going to happen? You're destined to repeat the history that happened to somebody else before. History repeats itself. So do a little research, do a little study, find someone in a similar scenario or as similar as you can find. Figure out what they did and figure out what worked, and more importantly, figure out what didn't work so you don't make the same mistakes. If you don't know history, you are destined to repeat it. And that's not always a good thing. It takes less courage to criticize the decisions of others than to stand by your own. There are tons of people, especially on TV, that I see where they just criticize this and criticize that and so on and so forth. If you're not going to offer a viable alternative, don't criticize. There's got to be a viable alternative, because the decision is made. It may or may not work. Not all decisions do. But you've got to have an alternative to be effective. Don't be critical without an alternative. Paradoxical as it may seem, sometimes the best decisions are made void of the emotions evoked by the facts bearing on the problem. Okay, a lot of times decisions get made based on emotion. How do you solve that? Okay, I mean, I've spoken about a scenario that, my wife and I had with Eli, where he kept doing the same thing over and over again. He was a little kid then, doing the same thing over and over again, kept asking for another chance, and the wife goes, all right, like a mother, okay? I mean, that's what a mother does, okay? Fine, and mom's not happy, nobody's happy, so I let her have her way until we reached a certain point. And then, as Bob Anderson said, I need to have a business meeting with the wife. Okay. Now, normally, I let the wife make all the decisions. I do anyway. All right, because if she's not happy, nobody's happy. But sometimes you got to put your foot down, and sometimes you got to say, okay, this is not smart. So Eli's doing this thing over and over again, and I said to the wife, hey, let's suppose your niece who's having the same problem with her child that we're having with Eli. What advice would you give her? And the advice was completely different than our plan of action. You got to step away from the emotional aspect. Put yourself as a third party where somebody's asking you for advice. That will help you see the problem more clearly, unemotionally, and help you to make a better, rational decision. It's good to remember that chieftains are, in large, rewarded for the decisions they make. Huns, conversely, are, in large, rewarded for how well they support and carry out the decisions. Well, we talked about that. Steve Kerr, coach of the Warriors. Steph Curry, player for the Warriors. If the team wins, great job, Steve Kerr. If the team loses, Steve Kerr, what could you have done to, what strategy could you use to win the game? You follow what I'm saying? It's, people take a shot, they make it, they miss it. They're not always going to make it. Point is, you want to put your people in a position where they can get you the best results, where they can get the best results for themselves, for the team. That's what a chieftain does. Self-confidence is critical to decisiveness, for without it, a chieftain loses his following in challenging situations. Folks, you have got to be confident when you're making your decisions, and you have to show that confidence to the people that are in your orbit, that are underneath you, that are your subordinates. When you have that confidence, that is 50% of the way of getting the job done. When you say, hey, I know we can make this work, let's make it work, people will work, if they have faith in you, if they trust you, if you created credibility, they will make it work. They will make it work. All right? So you have to have confidence, and confidence breeds confidence. You're confident, you're breeding confidence in your people that if they do the right stuff, the right things will happen. In the end, vision, drive, energy, singleness of purpose, wise use of resources, and a commitment to a destiny worthy of his efforts become a character of a chieftain who excels. One of the things that I've always said about leadership is, you know what leadership is? It's the success formula given to a group of people. What do? You create a vision. You have drive. You have energy. There's a singleness of purpose. There's a wise use of resources. Aren't all those things the things that you do to be a singular success? Well, the same thing is true in the team concept, in leadership, in decision making. In the end, vision, drive, energy, singleness of purpose, wise use of resources, and a commitment to a destiny worthy of your efforts. That's what the success formula is for an individual. It's also the success formula for a team, the unit. You chieftains must make the extra effort and demonstrate rigor in developing a sense of decisiveness. Knowing by instinct or by fact when the time is right for action will yield a high measure of success. Decisiveness in leadership action carries a heavy burden. Often it means victory or defeat. We cannot hesitate to act, but neither can we prematurely precipitate decisions that will work to our disadvantage. So it's an art and a science, all right? It's not a black and white thing most of the time. When it's a black and white thing, that's an easy decision, okay? Most of the time it's not. So experience is a huge factor in leadership, in decision making. Decisiveness is a key factor in the success of any decision. All right, that's our talk on decisiveness as far as being a leader is concerned. Next time, more leadership secrets. Until that time, hey, don't ration the passion, fashion the passion. I'm Eli's dad.